Who allowed this old witch into this party? Haven't I warned you to stay away from me?
It's me, your mother. I heard you are marrying today. I only came to bless you.
You are not my mother. Look at you, scars all over, like a cursed woman. You want to disgrace me in front of my in-laws? Leave my sight!
I got these scars saving you. Why are you rejecting me?
Lies! Lies! I don't know you. I was raised by dignity, not a burnt beggar. Leave immediately, or I will have you dragged out.
A brief intro. Olushi, the most beautiful lady in the village, soon got married to Chief Amadi, and together they gave birth to Ifeanyi. But just when all seems to be rosy, disaster struck. Fire engulfed their home, which took the life of Chief Amadi. In the bid to save her only child, Olushi ran back into the flames. She was successful, but she was burned severely. Chief Amadi family seized all his wealth and drove Olushi away with Ifeanyi, her only child. Accused of being a witch who unalived her former husband, Oluchi faced extreme hardship and bare days of hunger to see Ifeanyi through school. But soon his attitude towards her changed completely. He was ashamed of her scars and found her unattractive. After school, he stopped coming home to see his mother, where, after some months, Oluchi learned of her son's marriage in the city. Totally convinced he had lost her contact, Oluchi traveled to the city to attend the marriage, only to be met with public disgrace and rejection from her child. Ifeanyi, paying a deaf ear to her cries, immediately ordered two hefty bouncers to throw her out of the marriage ground. Oluchi did not go back home. She remained seated by the outside fence of the big field where her son's reception was ongoing. Soon the party was over and most of the dignitaries were leaving. Ifeanyi and his new bride got into their own vehicle, ready to leave the reception ground in a convoy. That was when Oluchi made a radical decision. She came out into the road to block their path, and the convoy came to a halt. Ifeanyi quickly noticed that his mother was the one who had stood in his path. An angry frown crossed his face. Both he and his new bride came down from their vehicle and started walking towards her. Ifeanyi no doubt was angry and exasperated.
Woman, what is the meaning of this? Why can't you just let me be? If it is money you need, just tell me your price. I will pay you off so you can live my life for good.
He told her in a harsh tone. Of course, Oluchi had not come all the way from the village to receive payment for all the sacrifices she made for her only child. In short, what she had done for him was not something that could be bought with money. How can you say a thing like this? Do you truly think you can pay me for all the years I have taken care of you? She asked him, the tears flowing down her face. By this time, this altercation between mother and son was gradually drawing attention of people since the convoy they were in had come to a halt and was blocking the free flow of traffic on the road. And Rita, the bride, seeing this, quickly advised Ifeanyi that he should allow the woman to follow them home so they could settle this issue amicably. And seeing no other way out of this situation, Ifeanyi agreed, which made Oluchi really happy. Little did she know, trouble was around the corner. On the way back home, the silence was loud. Rita was really angry at all the drama that had happened that afternoon during their marriage ceremony. You see, Ifeanyi had lied to her that he was an orphan, that both his parents had died in an accident when he was a child. And she could not help but raise this topic once more. Honey, this woman said she is your mother. What do you have to say about that? For a moment, Ifeanyi was silent, like someone thinking of the best answer to give to her. And after a while, he decided to take the easy route of denial.
Well, to be frank, I won't deny that I don't know this woman. But she's not my biological mother. She only helped me for some time after I lost my parents.
He lied to her while avoiding her gaze. Well, Rita did not pursue this discussion any further, but deep down, she knew her husband may be lying to her. All the same, she gave him the benefit of doubt. Ifeanyi's house was a sprawling mansion at the heart of the city. Oluchi's jaw dropped in bewilderment. From her observation at the marriage ground, it was clear to her that her son was doing well financially, but never in her widest imagination could she have dreamed that her child was this wealthy. But why then has he abandoned her in the village, despite the fact she had given all her sweat and blood to see him succeed? She thought to herself. Ifeanyi quickly showed her to a boys' quarter at the backyard of his main house.
Mama, I don't want you to make any more trouble. You can stay here for the meantime, but stop calling yourself my mother.
He admonished her soundly. Even though Oluchi was taken aback by these words from her son, she let it slide. Right from the start, she was very unhappy at the hostile attitude of her only child towards her. Even though she was tempted to angrily leave Ifeanyi's house for the village, yet she decided to stay. There was not much to go back to in the village. She had labored hard all her life, and it was telling on her body now that she is gradually entering into her old age. Let me stay back. Maybe if he keeps seeing me, this foolishness that have taken hold of my child may go away, she thought to herself. From the start, Rita's attitude towards Oluchi was not really favorable. It was clear she did not like her one bit, which did not come as a surprise to Oluchi. If my own child could treat me with disdain, what should I expect from anyone else in his household? And to add salt to injury, Rita made sure Oluchi was left to do most of the house chores, even though they had a dedicated house help. Ifeanyi paid a blind eye to the unfavorable condition his mother was kept. He made it clear to her that he don't want her to be seen whenever he received a visitor. It was very clear he was ashamed of her because of her scars. Oluchi bear the whole unfair treatment silently and pray fervently that God should turn her child's heart in her favor. Anyway, it was not long before Oluchi noticed something in Ifeanyi's house that aroused some suspicion in her. You see, living with them in the big house was Toby, one of Rita's brother. But then, it was not long before Oluchi started suspecting the true nature of the relationship between these two. Toby was a handsome and ruddy young man, freshly out of school and not yet working. He spent most time at home and was surviving by the benevolence of Ifeanyi. Even though his presence in the house posed extra expense, Ifeanyi really did not care. He was ready to do anything for the well-being of his in-laws. But then, Oluchi started suspecting the closeness of these two and their behavior towards each other, especially once Ifeanyi was not around or his attention was not on them. Oluchi silently observed the secret winks, the secret suggestive gestures of Rita towards her supposed brother. Oluchi observed all this silently, but pretended to be unaware of what was going on. Each passing day, her doubts grew bigger, but then what confused her even more was that she could still remember that on the day of the marriage, Toby followed them back home in the convoy, adorned in the special attire all of Rita's relatives wore, which further cemented the claims of being her brother. But seeing this strange behavior between the two, she was sure that there was more to this than met the eyes. At first, thought of expressing her concern to her son crossed her mind, but she quickly brushed it off. She knew Ifeanyi was head over heels in love with Rita, and such claims without substantial evidence would only destroy the already fragile relationship she and her son shared. She knew Ifeanyi would quickly label her as someone whose plan was to destroy his home and throw her out of his house. Oluchi watched all that was going on silently with the disturbed heart of a caring mother. One afternoon, Oluchi went into the main house to grab a cup of water. On her way out of the kitchen, she saw Toby coming from the direction of the bedroom with only a towel loosely tied around his waist, sweating and blowing himself with a small notebook he had improvised into a fan, like someone who had been running a marathon, which seemed strange to her since the air conditioner was on and the temperature was quite cool. Anyway, she did not think much of it, but just as she was about to leave, Rita also came into the living room from the same direction, simply dressed in pajamas and sweaty. She was laughing and saying something jokingly to Toby, but the moment she noticed the presence of Oluchi, she stopped in her track and visibly taken aback by her presence. But she quickly concealed her surprise and forced an awkward smile while hurriedly fumbling through some item in the basket and quickly left the living room back to her bedroom. Even Toby had slightly left the living room back to his bedroom. Oluchi went back to the boys' quarter she had been confined to. She was lost in thought. What was Rita still doing at home by this time of the day? Spensely dressed in nightwears, she knew it was work hours. Ifeanyi, of course, had gone to work, and Rita ought to be at work too. By the way, why was Toby dressed only in a towel and sweating and breathing like someone who had just run a marathon? All this and several other thoughts flooded her mind. She was not a child. She could tell from the evasive look on Rita's face that something was definitely going on between these two so-called siblings. And she started contemplating in her mind on the best way to communicate her observation to her son, who was getting more withdrawn from her by the passing day. The following day, the attitude of Rita towards her changed completely. She was easily upset with Oluchi and mother-in-law, which made Oluchi really surprised. Even though Rita's attitude towards her have not been a respectful one right from the onset, but this new character she was exhibiting was really strange. She even sacked all her domestic staff and compelled Oluchi to do all the house chores in the big house all by herself. Well, this did not go down well with her. So that evening, Oluchi for the first time complained bitterly to her son about the attitude of his wife towards her and how she was being made to do all the house chores. But to her surprise, Ifeanyi did not see anything wrong with it.
Mama, it's either you will do the house chores or go back to the village. The cost of feeding you and the house helps in this house is drilling a hole in my pocket.
He told her frankly, while avoiding her gaze. Oluchi could not believe her ears. She just could not believe that the same child she had spent all her energy on to see succeed could be this mean to her. Thought of going back to the village crossed her mind, but then she remembered Rita and Toby and decided to stay back. She was convinced that Rita's attitudes towards her have changed because she wanted her out of the house at all costs, which went on to prove that her instinct may be right. Oluchi bear all the insults that came with her decision to stay in good faith. Rita was really mean to her and shouted at her with the very least provocation. Sometimes she would leave her starving without making food available for her. Oluchi endured all these ill treatments silently because anytime she complained to Ifeanyi, her son, he quickly sided with his wife. She cried most nights, all the while praying for God to turn her only child heart in her favor. Soon Rita became pregnant. Ifeanyi just could not contain his joy. When Rita broke this news to her, Oluchi watched this celebration with a lingering suspicion within her mind. She doubted if the unborn child truly belongs to her son. All the same, she kept her suspicion to herself and celebrated with them. Hey, before we jump right back into our story, today massive hug goes to Costly, watching from Calabar, and Louisa, watching from South Africa. Thank you so much for the love and support. Where are you watching us from? Type it in the comment section so I can send you a hug in the next story. Also leave a like on this video and subscribe to Anita Chocolate. Alright, back to our story. Soon 9 months came and went, and Rita gave birth to a bouncing baby boy. From the moment she set eyes on the newborn child, it was very clear to her that the child was not her grandchild. The newborn was a carbon copy of Toby. She shook her head in bewilderment. Even Ifeanyi could not help but notice the similarity in the facial features of the child and that of Toby, and he pointed this out to Rita. Well, Rita quickly laughed it off. Honey, what did you expect? Toby is my brother. That is why our child looks so much like him, she said with a smile. Even though this answer was not really satisfactory, somehow Ifeanyi saw no reason to doubt his wife's faithfulness. Oluchi shook her head. She could see clearly that Rita had Ifeanyi firmly in her grasp. Well, just 5 months into the arrival of this child, something happened. One afternoon, Oluchi was woken up by the cry of the baby. When the insistent cries of the child had gone on for some time, Oluchi had to go into the main building to check on him. There the child was in his crib, crying his eyes out. Oluchi was surprised and looked about, wondering the whereabouts of the mother. She carried him, but the cries did not stop. She was really worried and started walking towards the bedroom section in search of Rita, all the while murmuring about the carelessness of all these new generation mothers. At the bedroom door, Oluchi wanted to knock, but then a sound from within made her froze. She had to listen for the second time to be sure of what she just heard. The sound coming from within was unmistakably that of a man who could be in the bedroom with Rita. She thought to herself. She knew Ifeanyi was off to work. The sound was like two people in a heated argument, accompanied by a continuous quaking sound from a bed. Oluchi could not hold herself anymore. Overwhelmed by curiosity and following her instinct, she pushed the door open without knocking, where the sight that greeted her eyes made her stop dead in her track. Right there before her on the bed was Rita and Toby. They were serving it hot to each other with reckless abandon. Clearly they were in another world. It took them some time to notice the presence of Oluchi, and of course, as should be expected, the moment they noticed her, all hell broke loose. They were clearly terrified. Rita fell on her knees, pleading with Oluchi not to tell Ifeanyi what she just saw. Toby hurried out of the bedroom, confused and devastated. Oluchi just did not know what to say. She dropped the child gently on the bed and left the bedroom outside to cool her head. There was no doubt all of Rita's pleas had fallen on deaf ears. She was obviously telling Ifeanyi, her son, of all her eyes just saw. It was already late before Ifeanyi got back home from work. Even from the boys' quarter, Oluchi could hear Rita's voice. She was crying loudly. There was some commotion in the main house. Oluchi was very sure Rita had, of her own accord, owned up to the abomination she committed earlier that day. Where Oluchi was soon urgently summoned into the main house, only to be met with a big surprise. There Rita was, crying profusely and pointing an accusing finger at her. Oluchi was taken aback and short of words, wondering what was happening. She is the one. She stole the stack of dollar notes and my gold jewelry from our bedroom. She made this accusation while pointing at Oluchi and crying some more. Ifeanyi stood there, confused and angry, not knowing what exactly to do. At this point, Oluchi could not keep quiet anymore. My son, your wife is accusing me falsely. She's telling all these lies because earlier today I caught her red-handed making out with Toby in your bedroom. Oluchi dropped the bombshell. Ifeanyi just could not believe his ear. He looked at Rita accusingly, his eyes red from anger. And to this, Rita broke down in tears. Your mother is accusing me falsely. Oh, what a wicked woman. She started crying some more. At this point, Ifeanyi had had enough of this drama.
Mama, we have to check your bedroom so I can be sure you are not lying about all this.
He declared. Well, Oluchi was more than happy to show them to her bedroom. She was very sure nothing would be found in her bedroom since she had not stolen any of Rita's items. Rita, Oluchi and everyone else stood outside while only Ifeanyi, along with the gateman, went to the boys' quarter to search Oluchi's bedroom. In just less than 5 minutes, Ifeanyi came out of Oluchi's bedroom fuming. He was owing a wad of cash along with a gold jewelry which belonged to his wife. Oluchi's jaw dropped in disbelief. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She had no idea how the money and jewelry got into her bedroom. A smirk appeared on Rita's face, which she quickly covered up with her tears. Sweetheart, hope you can now see that your mother has been falsely accusing me all this while. She is a thief and a witch who don't want to see us happy, she told him while shedding some crocodile tears. At this point, Ifeanyi was furious with his mother. He ordered her to leave his house immediately. Oluchi fell on her knees, crying and pleading her innocence. But all her cries fell on deaf ears. Ifeanyi was convinced that his mother had been plotting evil against his family. And despite the fact that it was late and it was already raining heavily, Ifeanyi pushed his mother out of his house with not a penny to her name, and to the mercy of the elements and all of the dangers lurking in the dark. The rain beat down heavily on her as she left the estate as someone else was in. She walked aimlessly, not knowing where to go. The tears flowed freely down her face. All desire to keep on living left her. What is there to keep living for? Her son, which was her only source of hope, had betrayed and forsaken her. At this very moment, the urge to unalive herself weighed heavily on her shoulder. She saw a vehicle coming in her direction, and without thinking twice, she threw herself into the road. The last thing she could remember was the last creaking sound of tire and horn blaring. She later woke up in the hospital, weak but okay. A bandage was tied around her head and hand. Seated beside her was a young man, neatly dressed in cultural attires, with a broad smile on his face. He whispered to others, out of her sight, that she was finally awake. Even though Oluchi was still too weak to move, she could hear the excited whispers from others in low tones. She soon drifted back into sleep. Oluchi stayed in the hospital for a couple of months. Each day, this young man made it a point of duty to pay her a visit. Sometimes he would come with his family. They make sure she was given the best care she needed for a quick recovery. Soon, Oluchi was strong enough to leave the hospital. The young man who had been tending her all this while offered to take her to his house. At home, the young man, who she later came to know to be Jude, asked her the question that has been bothering him all this while.
Mama, you threw yourself in front of my car. What could be the matter? What grief could be so great to make you want to throw away your life?
He asked her with a look of worried concern on his face, and to this, Oluchi, with tears streaming down her face, narrated her life story to him. By the time she got to the part whereby Ifeanyi drove her out of his house into the rain, there was no dry eye in the house anymore. Everyone was crying, both Jude, his wife, and kids.
Mama, your days of suffering are over.
He started, wiping her tears with a handkerchief.
I am an orphan. I lost both my parents when I was just a boy and suffered great deal in the hands of those who raised me. I did not enjoy the privilege your son got. I have to try to get to where I am today. I am very wetty today, but I have no parents to share any of my wet with. Please, if it pleases you, I want you to adopt me as your son. I promise to take very good care of you for the rest of your days.
He told her. Oluchi, of course, was very happy, and they all embraced her, both Jude, his wife, and the children, who were visibly excited to have such a lovely grandma. Oluchi just could not believe her eyes. God had come through for her and given her a welcoming family after her own biological son abandoned her. The children were particularly fond of Oluchi. In the evening, they would sit about her, eager to hear her stories. She was a very good storyteller. As if her blessing were not yet enough, the following week, Jude made the announcement that he was flying Oluchi to the white man's land for their big doctors to repair her skin. She could not believe her ears. And just as he had promised, he flew her off for the surgery, and it was a huge success. Oluchi returned back into the country, glowing and radiant, and to be met with yet another big surprise. You took her to a big supermarket at the heart of the city. He had set it up for her so she could earn her own living. This gift also came with a house, a car, and a dedicated driver to take her anywhere she needed to go. Oluchi almost fainted out of excitement. She just could not stop the tears from flowing freely down her face. These were tears of joy. She, who was once called a witch by everyone, including her own biological son, had now become a woman of great means. All thanks to her new family, she embraced Jude happily. Just like so, 20 years had gone by. One weekend, while Jude and his family stopped by to pay Oluchi a visit in her home, someone came knocking. Jude opened the door, only to be greeted by a haggard-looking man dressed in worn-out clothing, most of his hair grey, clearly not from old age, but from extreme hardship.
Tell Mama that Ifeanyi, his son, is looking for her.
He told him while avoiding his gaze. Jude was taken aback, but then he quickly remembered the story Olushi told him several years ago. When Olushi learnt of Ifeanyi's presence, she was really angry and was not ready to see him. But Jude was able to convince her to at least give him an audience. The moment Ifeanyi was allowed inside and he set eyes on his mother, he knelt down and started crying profusely while begging for her forgiveness.
Mama, please forgive me. I've been a very foolish and selfish son.
He started while crying. He went on to tell everyone his story after he drove his mother out of his house that night. It was not long before he discovered that truly Rita, his wife, had been cheating on him. He had hurried back from work earlier than usual due to some documents he forgot, only to meet Rita and Toby in his matrimonial bed having a good time. He was mad and got into a fight with Toby, and in the process he took a kitchen knife and unalived Toby. By this time, Rita, who had run out of the house with her child, quickly raised an alarm. He was soon arrested and charged to court. The judge found him guilty and was sentenced to many years in jail. He came out 2 years ago after a new government granted him and some other prisoners parole, only to be met with the news that Rita has sold everything he once owned and relocated out of the country with Toby's child.
Mama, I have really suffered. I have been looking for you for the past 2 years. I know I'm suffering this because of what I did to you. Please forgive me and take me back.
He told her while crying profusely. Olushi opened her mouth, but no words came out, just tears streaming down her face. If you are in Olushi's shoes, will you forgive Ifeanyi and accept him back after all he did? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for watching today's episode from Anita Chocolate. Do well to support my work by subscribing to this channel. Leave a like on this video and share it with your loved ones. Also turn on the notification bell so you will be the first to see our future upload and watch this other amazing story from our channel displaying on your screen while waiting for the next story. Bye.